What's up, everybody? It's Man of Low Moral Fiber here. My name's Luke, and in this video we're going to be taking another look at the Stinkpot as a part of my Does It Suck series. The Stinkpot is a unique Jakobs assault rifle that is available in the first campaign DLC, Captain Scarlett and Her Pirate's Booty. Like many other weapons, it did receive a significant buff as a part of the community patch, which is why we're going to take another look at it. We're going to start here looking at the unpatched version of the weapon, and then move on to applying the community patch to see how the weapon is changed. This is a Grenadier type assault rifle, and we can see that here because it has this torque barrel. This version here is also going to have a Jakobs grip and a cowboy prefix, which is going to be the projectile speed accessory that also increases fire rate. This is my preferred version of the Stinkpot because the bullets or projectiles move so much quicker. When shooting this weapon, you can see that it's currently costing 2 ammo per shot, and the projectiles do bounce before eventually exploding. It is possible to damage yourself with this weapon, but the weapon doesn't deal that much damage to its user, if I can make it happen here. So you can see there that it did a little bit of damage to my shield, but it didn't totally take me out or anything. If I'm standing right up next to a wall here, you can see that it would still take multiple shots to take out your shield. So it's definitely possible to kill yourself with this weapon, but it's less likely than a lot of other weapons, and I don't think it should come up too often because there are a lot of surfaces where it just doesn't bounce back at you. So it shouldn't be too dangerous with this weapon, but it is something to keep in mind. Now, being a Grenadier rifle, it cannot actually get critical hit damage, and we'll take a look at that in just a second. This is always a corrosive weapon, which is pretty unique for a Jakobs weapon. To my knowledge, this is the only corrosive Jakobs weapon, and the red text would kind of indicate that. It says, "We're pirates, we don't follow the rules." So that's pretty cool for this weapon here, that it gets to be an elemental Jakobs, but usually one of the main selling points of a Jakobs, one of the things that makes them special and powerful, is that they get extra critical hit damage, and so this weapon won't be able to benefit from that because it cannot get critical hits. Regardless, we're going to take a look at how it performs here and see how it does. The red text may also be an allusion to, an actual weapon that pirates of, olden times used, which was called a stinkpot. Apparently, it was just a very stinky pot that they would throw on, enemy ships and stuff to drive out the other sailors. Regardless, let's take a look at how it performs here. So, being a Jakobs weapon, it is a semi-automatic. Oh man, I did not mean to throw that turret there. That was my mistake. So you can see that without slag, it wasn't dealing too much damage, but we were working through his health pool a little bit, and then with slag, it is actually able to kill enemies. And we are using a legendary soldier comm. We're using this Bone of the Ancients here. And I do believe this is actually the first elemental Jakobs weapon in the entire game. The greed was added with the same DLC, but the Stinkpot came first. Like in the order that you would play through Captain Scarlett and Her Pirate's Booty, you get the Stinkpot right away, assuming you're lucky enough to get it to drop from No Beard. And the greed you get, quite a few story missions later. So I wanted to reload here because I accidentally slagged that guy with my turret, and we'll just see how we do without slag. So you can see that, a whole magazine, it takes away a little bit of his health. You'll be able to work through his health regeneration pool, but, you're still not going to be able to kill him very quickly. Man, I just keep hitting that F button to send out the turret. I don't think I would be able to get a second win on a non-slagged enemy with this weapon here. I'm going to try it. But yeah, it just seems currently out of my range. So we'll go ahead, quit out here. I was going to quit out. I'll just let myself die. It's about 6-1, half a dozen the other. I was trying to figure out which load time would be quicker, quitting out and loading into the game again, or waiting for myself to respawn. I'm not really sure either way. Let's go to Sanctuary real quick and take a look at the damage on this weapon real quickly so that we know that with the community patch, we can see how it's changed, because the community patch notes for this weapon say that they have buffed the damage by 50% and made it deal grenade damage. So that'll be a little bit different than just seeing the damage change on the card, so that's why we'll take it down to the dummy here. Obviously, the dummy resists corrosive, but we'll be able to see the relative change in damage, with and without the patch, even though he resists it. So again, this weapon cannot get critical hits. I'm shooting it right at his head there, and you can see no critical hit. So it's doing 619,000 damage there, and that's with the legendary soldier comm. So let's take the legendary soldier comm off and look at it again here. So now we're getting 416,000 damage. And then if we apply an expert grenadier comm, we should see that that's going to be still 416,000 damage. So let's apply the community patch, come back in, and see how it has changed. Now, there are a couple indirect buffs that will help the Stinkpot as well, including the ammo pickups for assault rifles. Now, right away, that just makes ammo consumption a little bit easier to manage with assault rifles because you get more ammo when you pick them up. Now, the buff to ammo consumption on torque-barreled assault rifles does not seem to have affected the Stinkpot. The Stinkpot does still cost 2 ammo per shot, but that's okay. It has a relatively deep magazine at 20, giving us 10 shots per mag. With the Expert Grenadier comm now, we can see that it's now doing 1.1 million damage. So that is significantly higher. So its base damage got boosted significantly, and also in addition to that, make sure I'm using the right one here. So now I'm actually using that same one. So, 1.075 million there, 1.074. So pretty cool. Definitely a huge boost to the damage. The damage on the card has gone up, and it actually gets grenade damage boost now. If we take off the Expert Grenadier comm, I'm sure we'll do less damage. Yeah, so back down to 2/3 of a million there. So let's go ahead and put on a Legendary Grenadier comm. This is another buff that wasn't directly to the Stinkpot, but will benefit the Stinkpot. You can see that that gets it up to 1.2, so that's pretty good. 1.25, a little higher than that even. So that's pretty cool there. Let's go to the Washburn Refinery and see how this weapon performs now. I expect it to perform much, much better because obviously it received a significant boost, and on Axton we are boosting grenade damage significantly. As far as grenade, I will just use a slag grenade here. I could use another grenade like a Quasar to group enemies up, but the Quasar does quite a bit of damage itself, so I don't want to, be relying on the Quasar as a primary damage source. So again, this guy, I'll try not to throw my turret on him. Should be a little bit easier now that it does so much more damage. I just hit that turret button every time I back up. It's out of habit. I can't help it. So, oops. I guess it's kind of consistent, right? We took out, half of his health and then threw the turret and finished him off. That's kind of what we did the first time, really. So, oops, my bad on that. We'll go ahead and start slagging these guys and put some rounds in them. I do like the cowboy version of it because those bullets fly fast enough to engage enemies at longer ranges. This is going to be a solid weapon for power loaders because they cannot reflect it into your face. Now, this is a non-slagged enemy. I do notice that on a non-slagged enemy, we're probably not going to be able to take him out in one magazine size. I kind of wish this weapon had got the ammo reduction that some assault rifles had gotten because that would be pretty beneficial for this weapon as well. Go ahead and get my turret out here. Hopefully it slags the other one. Nope. No worries. We'll take out that R-loader just the same. So once we have Metal Storm, we will still benefit from Metal Storm, even though this is a semi-automatic weapon that is kind of limited more by my finger speed than the actual fire rate of the weapon. But I do think that with Metal Storm, we should see a significant reduction in recoil, which will definitely benefit the weapon. More rounds on target. Plus, we don't have to be super accurate with the weapon because it can't get critical hits, right? So with that in mind, that's not too worrying there. I'll throw this again because there are a couple more enemies in here than I had realized, but now I'll pick it up since there's just a gun loader. Obviously, once we have a kill skill, Onslaught activates, or once our kill skills are active, Onslaught is going to be activated, and that does give us a significant boost to gun damage as well. We can see that Onslaught is going to be over here, so that gives us, 30% gun damage. That's pretty nice. Let's go ahead and get this guy slagged. Let's see if we can kill him in one magazine with Battlefront. Oh yeah, I mean, I missed a couple rounds there, but I think it would definitely be possible to kill him in one magazine with Battlefront. We'll get another try at that perhaps here in a minute when we go to the next area where another one of those guys does spawn. Go ahead, just take a little bit more grenades and assault rifle ammo with us because always beneficial to be stocked up. What I can tell you, having worked through the first room with this weapon, and this is the first time I've used the patch version of it, it's so much stronger than it was just because it can get grenade damage boost. Now, obviously, it got a boost to, base damage as well, and so it's going to be better on all characters, but specifically with Axton, it will be a lot better because of his grenade damage boost, and the Legendary Grenadier comm is only going to benefit the weapon as well. Again, it's pretty good for power loaders because they can't reflect it at you, which is solid. Still have 8 rounds for this guy. Let's see if that's enough to finish him off once we have our kill skills, and it is, so that's pretty solid there. Looks like it does fine at blowing up barrels. Now, exploders may be something that are a little bit challenging for it because it cannot cripple them, and you have a middle-of-the-road size mag. So it looks like if they're not slagged, you're probably not going to be able to finish them off before they get over to you. But if they are slagged, you'll definitely be able to kill them. So, I don't know. This one's non-slagged, but we do have kill skills in Battlefront this time, so we were able to kill that one. If I had backed up in a proper direction, we would not have taken damage from it, but, you know, I didn't back up in a proper direction. Killed that guy with my transfusion grenade there. It's always weird to see a transfusion grenade do that much damage when you're playing Axton, and you're used to playing Zero where they don't deal that much damage, so interesting little deal there. That wasn't even a no negative either, which could potentially deal more damage. You can see, though, that the Stinkpot is pretty damn powerful now. It kills enemies quickly, and I'd say it makes up for not being able to get critical hits. Now, a Jakobs that can't get critical hits is definitely a weird proposition, but it does okay. So the projectiles do slightly arc, so I'm able to shoot them over that railing, I think, and still actually hit that guy. But, sometimes you'll have to take that into account on enemies that are an exceptional distance away. We will not have the turret to start here because we were using it in the last room, but we're able to immediately get Onslaught going, so that's definitely nice. Onslaught and Metal Storm. Metal Storm, not as big a deal with this rifle because it's not a full auto, but it does get rid of that recoil, which is really nice. So I don't know how we weren't hitting that guy on some of those shots there, but sometimes, I guess, at certain angles, the weapon can be a little bit inconsistent, which is unfortunate. Always like your damage to be more consistent, if possible. Cool. Oh, wow, there's another badass up here. Let's see if we can finish him off in one magazine. Probably not, because I wasn't fully loaded. That's my mistake. Maybe we killed him in enough shots that it would have been one mag. I don't know. Either way, he's definitely dead. Go ahead and finish off that guy over there if we can as well. Yeah, I would definitely recommend the projectile speed version of this weapon just because there are a lot of situations where you will need to engage enemies outside of the normal range of the slower moving projectile. If I shoot this one here, you can see that it's a little bit harder to get to the enemy. We could definitely fire it faster than that, but to illustrate the point, I was firing slow. Shooting this one kind of fast now. I guess it still gets to the enemy okay. This is kind of an intermediate range, and it looks like it does damage through bull loader shield, so that's another advantage of the weapon here. I would still recommend the projectile speed version of it, though. It just seems more intuitive to me. Cool. It's a pretty powerful weapon. The damage over time boost globally is also going to be another indirect buff to the Stinkpot that will help it out. Yeah, this weapon's pretty solid. I would like it a little bit better if it could get critical hits, but I think if it could get critical hits, they'd have to lower the base damage a bit to not make it OP, because if this weapon got critical hits, it would be very, very powerful. Right now, I would say that it's fun to use. I like it. It's probably better than a standard AR, which is good. I didn't like that it was so weak to begin with. You know, it was a DLC weapon, something that people paid for to get. So with that in mind, you know, I think it should be a powerful weapon, or at least a viable weapon. It would be bad if, you know, a DLC didn't have any viable weapons at all. And it's not as if that Captain Scarlett's didn't already have a ton of great gear. I mean, it does have the Sandhawk, the Pimpernel, the Rapier, so it was already a really, really good DLC for gear. But also, it having the Stinkpot as a viable weapon is another thing that makes that DLC so awesome now. I also kind of like the silly little, you know, flower with the swords through it that is indicative of a Captain Scarlett weapon. I think that that is a neat little deal. You'll see that the Pimpernel also has that right here. So kind of a neat little visual addition, or it's not an addition. The Stinkpot's already had that, and it's always had that. But now that the Stinkpot's actually usable, I guess you could appreciate it a little bit more. Overall, I would definitely say that the Stinkpot does not suck at this point. The Stinkpot is performing pretty admirably through the Washburn refinery here. Obviously, it is corrosive only, so there are going to be a lot of areas where the Stinkpot's not an ideal weapon to use, but that's to be expected. Let my shield take most of that damage, and we'll let this guy get killed. Perfect. Now, where is this other one at? Oh, he's way up there. So this may be a situation where Stinkpot's not as effective, because even at, at this range, even with the projectile speed accessory, it's a little bit inaccurate. Never mind, it took him out. So now I'm a little bit worried that we're not going to have turret for Hurley, but at the same time, I'm not that worried about it. I say that knowing that Hurley's killed me a couple times recently, so oops. Alright, so we'll throw a couple of those grenades that way. Corrosive's going to be a bad element for taking out his shield, but, whatever. We also won't be able to take out his arms with this weapon. I'm going to use the arcing one to hopefully hit him here while he's out of sight. When we have our turret back, we'll try to make a more earnest effort to take out his shield here. That's kind of cool how you can arc it over this little barrier here and mess him up a little. See if that'll turn him around there. Alright, so that's working into his shield pretty solid. And then once we get his shield down, I expect it to take out his health very quickly because, he's weak to corrosive. Yeah, we can definitely see that that made a huge difference in the amount of health that we're taking off per shot. Perfect. Make sure we don't die here. Throw a grenade. Stuck on something. Go ahead and get some more assault rifle. There. Even if none of those transfusion trails get to me, Axton's skills would eventually heal up my shield, or heal up my health because my shield was full, but either way, getting very close to finishing this guy off now. Guess he must have killed our turret because it didn't last that long. We'll actually get another turret up here in a second. Should get him slagged. I was expecting to turn a little bit quicker. I took some damage there that I didn't need to take, but Hurley still died. You can see that against shields, the Stinkpot doesn't do that great, but against corrosive, or armored enemies, it does pretty well. Having a little bit of trouble finding some grenades here for a second, but it shouldn't be too big of a problem. We've only got a couple enemies left. I guess we could slag them with a gun, as crude as that is. Assuming he's actually slaggable. I think I've shot in multiple rounds into him with the Pimpernel there. Usually that's enough to slag somebody, but this guy was a little bit resistant to slag for whatever reason. The weapon does no longer have ammo consumption problems because you're dealing so much more damage per shot. Obviously, it still consumes 2 ammo per shot, so you'll be reloading fairly frequently, which isn't always desirable. But overall, I would say that this weapon definitely doesn't suck now. I don't think it's borderline great or anything like that, but I would say it's an above average weapon. It's a good weapon, and it's definitely unique. There's no doubt about that. To my knowledge, it is still the only corrosive Jakobs gun. There may have been something introduced in the pre-sequel that I don't know about because I didn't play it that much. But to my knowledge, it's still the only corrosive Jakobs gun in the Borderlands universe, and it's pretty cute. I like it, It's very, very unique. It's the only weapon of its kind. The fact that it can't come in other elements is kind of cool for it, all of the Jakobs elemental weapons that I know about only come in a single element, and I think that makes them a little bit unique. Like I said, I like the Captain Scarlett styling on the weapon. The Pirate DLC is my favorite DLC, so perhaps that gives me a bias towards this weapon, and I want it to be good. So I am happy that the community patch has made it better, made it viable, because before it really wasn't that viable of a weapon and it definitely sucked. Now I would say it's a pretty good weapon, I wouldn't say it's an ideal weapon, and with other characters it's probably not going to be as powerful as it is with Axton, but overall it's pretty solid, and if you want to use it, you can definitely use it now because it's viable. So, as always, guys, I thank you very much for watching. I do appreciate it. If you haven't yet taken the time to subscribe, please do. I'd appreciate that as well. Otherwise, I do hope to catch you next time. Bye, guys.